On this episode, we will cover Captain Morgan, electrical gremlins and tyre mockery as we look back over the Donington Park GP review.
Hello and welcome back to the British Touring Car Podcast. We are back once again. It's Donington GP weekend and we're going to bring you all the action from Sunday. Now, an important announcement.
Always there. I was going to do some housekeeping, but you do
Okay, no, go housekeeping first.
Right, housekeeping. We're recording each race review after each race has happened. So there may be stuff that comes out afterwards that won't be covered in this podcast. We can always update that afterwards. Also, they say never work with children and animals. We have unfortunately decided to work with both today. The dog, Teddy, does make an appearance throughout the podcast. His views do not necessarily reflect those of the British Touring Car Podcast management team. He does also jump off and cause a rumpus on a chair at one point. So, yeah, that is the risk. But he is, of course, our dog mascot. So, yeah, Teddy is here. If you want to see him, make sure you're on the visual format.
Oh dear, yes. But first of all, we will cover the announcement that came at the start of the day. So, obviously, we know what's been going on this week regards to Cataclean Plato Racing turning into CPRL, rebranding, entering effectively the championship. Now all their points were sort of like reset, that side of things. The drivers managed to keep their points for the championship, or the drivers' championship, and they would be fighting with that going forward throughout the rest of the season. Now we understand that Cataclean have possibly stepped in to be able to keep people within their jobs, to be able to keep the team going for at least the rest of the season while they are still on the lookout for a new buyer. But with that, obviously, we had the announcement that Jason Plato would not be with the team for the rest of the season. And today we have seen a statement from him.
Yeah, so there's a fuller statement on his socials, but the one that was read out on ITV, I shall just read for you here. Early this week, I learned that my involvement with the company and the racing operation that I created back in July 2025 had been terminated. I was removed from my position as CEO, director and team principal without warning, explanation or discussion. The decision has left me stunned and deeply unsettled. My backing for the team remains absolute. Even though I'm no longer involved and will not be present at Donington Park this weekend, I hope the drivers and team personnel enjoy a successful race weekend. And as I say, there was a slightly longer version of that is available on his socials, which for time reasons I will not be reading, but that covers the salient facts, I think.
Yeah, it covers the main part of it. The rest of it is just about how his career has been throughout the touring cars. It's a short and sweet response.
Well, that bit is. The rest of the longer statement isn't, yeah.
That poses probably more questions than it answers, unfortunately.
Yeah, there's a lot to come out of this, and there's a lot of speculation, and there's you could say lots of things on this subject, and it'd probably be wise not to for various reasons. It certainly, I think we can all draw our own conclusion that it's not been a happy unmarrying and a happy uncoupling. And I think there is going to be a lot to come out from this. Whether CPRL can continue the season, we shall see. I don't know what the state of the money is. I don't know what they need to compete. Obviously, they were here this weekend, as we'll discuss in the podcast itself. But I think this is going to be a very fluid situation that we'll need to keep an eye on as the season enters its closing stages.
And it would be a real shame, considering the achievements that they had at Knock Hill, to take that 1-2 for the team. And how they then move on to this weekend at Donington with the performances that they seem to be getting out of the car now. It would be a real shame if they can now not complete the season, because they're showing now that they're a properly good addition to the championship.
Agreed.
Obviously, there's lots of politics that have gone on behind the scenes, and I don't think many people, certainly in the general public, will be privy to a lot of that, unfortunately.
Not until the second book comes out. I will just say in the interim that obviously there is a lot of Plato fans who feel very strongly about this. I understand that entirely. There's a lot of people that spent money on merchandise that are annoyed that the colour scheme was gone. Get that entirely. But just remember, when you're interacting with each other on social media, there are real people involved in all of this. The everyday mechanics, the people behind the scenes, etc., will not be involved in this, will not have any say in this. They are just doing their jobs. And I think it's just remember that, as I say, there are lots of humans caught in this who it's well beyond their pay grade to be involved at the top level, and they are just going about doing their job. So I would urge people to support the team as best they can. I understand that there will be a lot of people that feel they can't do that, but just keep comments on social media as respectful as possible.
Yes, and thank you for everyone that has put comments on our social media posts regarding all the news and information that we've been receiving this week with that in mind. Thank you so much for everyone that has been respectful already.
Right. That is all of the doom and gloom out of the way, apart from any time I open my mouth during this review. Shall we get straight on to... No, we've got to do qualifying, haven't we? No, we did that on we do a separate pod for that now, don't we? Yeah.
If you haven't seen already, we've done a Saturday podcast for the qualifying.
Yeah,
so you see qualifying and the race to pole and how Morgan has already looked to be quite dominant in that. But can he carry it on into Sunday? We bring you all the action from race 1 next. Going into race 1 then, and we have the top 6 drivers on the softer of the 2 tyres. Remember, we're running the medium and the hard this weekend. A lot of people are trying to get this hard tyre out of the way because it appears nobody likes it.
Well, you know my thoughts on this. A little bit of debate. I mean, Tim Harvey seemed to think that Sutton had made a horrendous miscalculation by starting on the soft or softer tyre. We'll say soft and hard for the sake of ease, compared to where the rest of the field was at. But I think we discussed this beforehand. Sutton would have gone into that race thinking, the cars in front of me will definitely start on the soft because if they finish in the top 3, they'll have to run the hard in race 2 anyway. I can win this race. Let's go on the soft and give it a real challenge.
Yeah, he said after the race, actually, that he had discussions with his team. He actually wanted to go on that hard tyre, but he was outvoted.
I get it from the team's point of view. I do get it from the team's point of view. I think that, you're looking at who's ahead of you. With all due respect, you've got 2 cars where it's been a difficult couple of weeks for the CPRL team. You don't know how they're going to perform on race day. Where are they at? And you've got Josh Cook, who is in a car which sometimes may be good, sometimes maybe not so good. So, from the team point of view, they'll be thinking, hang on a minute, those 3 cars in front of you are definitely beatable, Ash. Like, you've got to give this a go.
There were 3 other drivers starting the race on the softer of the 2 tyres. That was Patterson, Lloyd and Halstead. One driver wasn't starting, however, who should have been on a soft tyre as well, and that was Osborne.
Formal apology from me after highlighting how well he done yesterday and saying it'd be interesting to see how he could convert that today. Not very well, because the gearbox decided to...
vomited oil.
That's a better word and not a sweary word. Well done. Oil all over the track.
Unfortunately, leaving a nice trail down the Craner curves, which the marshals had to come out and treat before the race even got started. But it was... very much a similar start to what we had yesterday in race to pole, actually. It seemed that one side of the grid had a much better start to the other, and Rowbottom was the driver to miss out most on that, with Cook and Sutton both getting past him.
Yeah, it seemed that Rowbottom got a lot of wheel spin in the second phase. As you say, the first phase was all fairly even off the line, and then it just seemed that Rowbottom's car bogged down a little bit.
Yeah, he didn't do particularly well, and that would leave him sitting and fighting for 3rd and 4th. Rainford got elbowed out at the old hairpin. Looks like he was just left out to the outside, dipped a wheel in the gravel, had to do a little bit of rally crossing, unfortunately, which dropped him a few places on the opening lap. Then we had Rowbottom trying to fight back, and Rowbottom was making a nice, hairy dive into the hairpin.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about this, because on the one hand, you might go, that's the sort of late break move you love to see in the touring cars. Yep. Another part of me, the boring part of me, says that in the rule book, you can't make a pass and if you're out of control. We've seen it in F1 a few times, particularly with a certain Max Verstappen, where you make that kind of move, lock the wheel, and force the other driver to take evasive action. And then Verstappen's fans will go, that's just good hard racing. And then you'll go, no, that's out of control and he's a lunatic.
Sutton did have his wits about him. He saw him coming, didn't make it too easy, and then tried to get the cutback coming out of the chicane. He did actually manage to get back ahead of him before... hairpin. Did manage to get back before the next hairpin. However, a small incident had happened in the meantime. Chilton and Gilbert had a coming together, coming out of the chicane, coming down to the hairpin. Now, Gilbert was looking to defend his position with Chilton behind him, was sort of gradually moving over to the right-hand side to take that inside line. However, Chilton kept his nose in there for me and causes Gilbert to spin across the front of his car off onto the tinderbox dry grass, which you're going to have no grip on with how dry it is. It's like either really dry or really wet. You get no grip on it at all. and unfortunately met the barrier with quite a heavy hit, which sent the car tumbling.
Yeah, we've reshared the post from BTC showing this clip. Gilbert, we've recorded this straight after the race.
Yep.
Gilbert has been discharged from the medical centre and is fine.
The car, however,
the car is not.
No.
And I will say on the Chilton thing, for somebody that is so keen to point out driving standards on the rest of the grid, I would say he's been involved in his fair share this season of moments. And I have to say that I'd be surprised if a penalty doesn't come his way. All I will say is that we said the same sort of thing with Gilbert and Cook at Mock Hill.
Yeah.
And Cook wasn't penalised because it transpired, it would appear that Gilbert had been moving under braking, which is why Cook got away with the contact. I didn't see that from the onboard we had with Chilton here. But
I was going to say, at this point, they aren't really into the braking zone, and he is just trying to gradually move across, tighten that line on Chilton to almost put him off of...
Never work with children or animals.
Okay. Trying to put him off of the move into the hairpin, and Chilton will argue that he's moved across too far and Chilton has got his nose in there. Other people will argue that Chilton has the ability to back out of it, knowing that the move is going to be too tight down there. You've made him defend massively. Switch back to the other side and try and get the run out of the corner.
Yeah, with the onboard from Chilton, which they showed, I didn't see Gilbert moving across particularly aggressively. I saw Gilbert holding his line. Okay, Chilton was getting a little bit squeezed, but that's your prerogative to get out of it. And
we did hear Chilton lift.
Yep.
But not significantly enough to avoid contact.
Yeah, as I say, from first look and from the view inside the car, I'm putting this on Chilton's doorstep. We shall see if the clerk of the course and James Cole agree with me, and we'll bring, of course, any penalty updates we can as the day continues. However, I would be stunned if we see that car again today and possibly this season. We know how tight budgets are, and that's effectively a write-off. That
could well be.
Yeah,
he's ripped both wheels off on the left-hand side of the car. The car actually barrel rolled in the air. They were questioning on commentary whether the car had been over, and there was no damage to the roof, and that's because it did a full rotation whilst mid-air, which it's one of the bigger accidents that I've seen certainly in the last couple of years.
Yeah, the only thing that I can think of is the Turkerton Lloyd issue at Alton Park a couple of seasons ago. It's the only sort of crash that comes close in recent time that I can think of. Collard's roll at Silverstone, that's going back a fair few years now.
Long time now. Consequently, safety car came out. Who'd have thought? Sutton did actually manage to retain third, because when the safety car was released, he was actually ahead of Rowbottom at that time, and Rowbottom let him through, and it all seemed to work itself out without any issues by the look of it. We then had a restart from the safety car on lap 6. On that lap, we had Chilton with another gremlin, another possible electrical issue. We're seeing a lot of them this weekend.
Yeah, and I thought Harvey made a really interesting point, which is not something I say often on this podcast, but he did say that if there was body work flapping, you get the black and orange flag, and that's the second time Chilton's had the car cut out on him. This weekend, you could make a case that the black and orange flag should have been shown to him, because there's clearly a problem with the car. And okay, I know that you can't necessarily tell what that problem is, but Harvey's right. If that car cuts out, I know what point you're going to make, but if that car cuts out in mid-pack, or had it cut out for the Gilbert incident, and maybe that might be so he can say the car, from the onboards it didn't look that way, but that can then have a really detrimental effect on the people he's racing with, because we've seen it before with sort of crashes where a car just suddenly stops dead and can't get off the racing line, and you are back into the back of them.
Yeah.
I know you're going to say that, well, any car could cut out at any time.
It can.
I get that, but that's already happened. But once it's happened once, you can make the argument, okay, that should be black and orange flags, so you come into the pit to investigate to make sure it's not going to happen again.
It's difficult because we've seen moments this weekend where we have had cars cut out for various different reasons as well. They've managed to get the car restarted, like Doble yesterday, and he was actually able to race back through the pack. And there were no consequential issues because of that. It's really difficult to know what that issue is while the cars are going round.
I get that.
I think if it happens twice in a race, possibly, then you need to look at, okay, there's a more fundamental issue with the car. You need to be bringing that car in. It is not safe to keep it going. But as you've already mentioned, any car can cut out in any circumstance. You just don't know.
I do think that there might be some investigations or perhaps should be, because this has been a problem at virtual season. The cars have cut out on a fairly regular basis. Have been alternator and electrical issues. I think all the drivers have had them, apart from Collard so far. Cut to race 2, but yeah, there's certainly a lot of gremlins this weekend.
Yeah, so Chilton actually did manage to get the car restarted. Because he was stopped on track, the safety car was then called out again for that, but it was only 1 lap behind the safety car.
And the safety car
was back in.
Yeah, we saw it.
Yeah, exactly what happened.
Sprint pole yesterday, yeah.
And then we had Ingram and Collard battling.
Yeah,
I've got it written down here, crazy.
Yeah.
Because Ingram, although many people don't believe so, is still in a title fight mathematically. And Collard won't be completing the season, as we already know or assume.
Well, they'll be completing the weekend if Ingram gets hold of in the pit lane.
Surely you've got to be trying to do your best for Ingram to go up the grid to gain as many points as possible, and battling between teammates like they were is not going to help either of them.
No, I mean, if it's getting to the point where you are straight lining a gravel chicane in your bids to stay in front of your teammate, I mean, you need to be having a word with yourself, because that is daft. And look, as you say, Ingram's championship is basically over, and Collard will say that, well, he's only got a finite number of races, he's racing for himself, he's racing for his sponsors, etc., etc. I get that, but if you're trying to make yourself attractive to a team, you look at what Camish does at Napa, and a lot of people, myself included, want to see more from Camish, but he plays a team game. Proctor did it last year at Virtue, played the team game. I know that they don't do it so ruthlessly at Virtue when it comes to podiums and wins, etc. But this is mid-pack. This makes no real difference to Collard's to drop 1 place back. It could make all the difference to Wigan. We've seen championships won by a single point in the past. It's not going to happen this year, but you've got to believe that that can still be the case. And actually, from Virtue's point of view, even if they don't think they can win the championship, they still need to make sure they finish second in it. And at this juncture, where we are now, Camish is looking more likely to finish second than Ingram at the moment.
Although that was helped out by a certain Mr. Gordon Shedden coming past Camish quite easily, I would say, in this race.
But I think Camish might be nursing a little bit of a problem.
Possibly.
On the car, or maybe the setup gremlins. He wasn't particularly fast. No. But the thing is, he is now... I mean, Sutton's been outscoring Ingram all season. Obviously, that's why he's so far ahead at the top. Camish is now getting into the modes of outscoring Ingram for 2 races out of 3 each weekend.
Less than 10 points between them now. It's the gap has closed quite significantly, and I wouldn't say that Ingram's had massively bad weekends or results. They've just been a little less than we would probably expect from him.
I think the car has dropped off, if I'm honest, or other teams have strengthened. Obviously, we could see that with the CPRL cars. I think Napa go from strength to strength. Ingram struggled this weekend in a way that I hadn't expected from qualifying and in that race. I know he was on the worst tyre, but we saw other cars on the quote worst tyre doing okay.
And finishing ahead of him, importantly. Patterson, who was on the softer of the 2 tyres, managed to come past Ingram as well, again with relative ease, and I would expect that being with the tyre differential. And Patterson he's on a good run at the moment.
Yeah, he's doing really well.
He's made a good showing so far this weekend.
I'd like to think maybe with Dorlin now gone and the Jack Sears pretty much tied up, that Patterson might be able to get himself back into the conversation for the independents. He's certainly going very strongly at the minute. Although having said that, Shedden's having a really solid season, quietly having obviously we'll come to the race results at the end, but spoiler alert, picks up another podium. He's on such a good run at the minute as well. Yeah,
Bensley in the Toyota team picked up a 5-second penalty for a false start, unfortunately. And Patterson continued his way up the grid, also passing Collard as well. Basically getting on the same level as where the other soft run drivers were. Cook then had an issue. He slowed coming out of Redgate. Looked like another possible cutting out issue.
I thought puncture initially because there's a lot of smoke as he hit the braking zone. But
and as he almost like coasted down the crane, as it looked like he got the car back underneath him once again, but it looks like it was a possible gear lever issue, and he pitted at the end of lap 12.
Amateur James Hunt won a championship with a broken gear lever, according to the film Rush.
At this point, Morgan was like, see you boys, out in the distant, fastest lap, 4.5 seconds down the road. And he was actually at the point where he could ease off, he could miss some of the curbs and try and just save the car, basically, and keep it under his own control.
As he alluded to in an interview afterwards, when you're that close to the end of the race, you start to hear every bang differently. And he felt he had a little vibration issue in the car. And yeah, as you say, I was able to sort of nurse it. And I also think that might have might have rang true because a bit further back, Rowbottom was struggling at the end of the race, like he did in the sprint yesterday.
Yeah, he said yesterday he might use the tyres up midway through the event.
And the brakes do run hot here.
Exactly. And that was shown when Shedden managed to get past him for third position, although there was a little bit of question over who wanted to finish third because of having to run that harder tyre in race 2.
Which is a nonsense in itself, but I will not start that particular angry road today. What I will say is I think that conspiracy theory is put to bed with the fact that Carriage was then able to catch and pass. Carriage was a fair way back when Shedden got through, and he was able to catch and pass on the last lap. So
it was a robust manoeuvre, wasn't it, into the hairpin?
Hard but fair. I've got no problem with that whatsoever. Camish had the inside line. You might be able to argue...
Gave him the elbow on the exit.
Robot will argue he didn't get a car's width. I think he did. Just the car's width meant that he still would have got back round anyway. I think that was a good, hard, old-fashioned pass from Couch. I've got no problem with that personally at all, and I don't think many people in the touring car world, given on what we've seen this week, have a problem with it either. But yeah,
I think Rowbottom definitely now needs to look into his specific setup, because if he's using too much of the car, whether that be brakes, whether that be tyres in the middle of the race, and doing well at that point, and then drops back right at the end, it's the end where you need that car, because that's where you score the points. And Morgan seems to have it just in that sweet spot. I was
about to say he's being outshone quite. I mean, I know Robot took second yesterday. He's had to cut the podiums, but I think Morgan is so far ahead of him at the minute. Personally, I think he's got that car in the sweet spot. It looks like it's on absolute rails. And consider that only 2 weekends ago at Thruxton was saying car looks quick, but boy oh boy is it looking hard to control. Compared to where they are now, that's on absolute rails for Morgan.
Yeah, he took the win in the end from Sutton and Shedden, with Camish finishing in 4th from Rowbottom 5th. 6th was
Aaron Taylor-Smith. Good recovery from him after had been a little bit anonymous recently.
I was going to say, it's been an okay weekend for him so far, and he was the lead driver on that harder tyre.
Absolutely. Patterson was next in 7th. Again, just so solid at the minute. In a real nice groove. Ricky Collard 8th. Tom Ingram 9th. They still didn't stop on the last lap, which I just don't understand.
There's a big gap between them as well.
Yeah, but
I know. I'm just saying, there's a big gap between them.
Mikey Doble 10th, Moffat 11th. Decent result, if not spectacular, for the Audis there. Rainford recovered into 12th. That's not bad, going from the back of the grid and an early off as well. Chris Smiley 13th, Selby 14th, and Dan Lloyd picking up a point on his return.
A little disappointing, considering how many positions Rainford made up after that off at the start. The Leon also started at the back as well, and still wasn't able to score points.
No, but I think that BMW is not very good. If I'm being brutally honest with you, it's still got its ability off the line. It's still good in traction zones. It's just not very fast at the minute. I know that you can point to the fact that Rainford was fast in practice yesterday. Practice means nothing. People are running very different setups and very different bits and pieces. I think we've seen all year it's struggling for power, and I think you're seeing it this weekend as well.
As far as we're aware, no other penalties are looking like they will be handed out for race 1. So we'll take you into race 2 next.
On to race number 2 then, and we'll just do a little bit of admin and clear up. So Gilbert has been confirmed to be ruled out for the rest of the day. The interview with Dick Bennett. The car, yes, you're right.
Car, he is fine. Still.
Yes, he is fine, yeah. Dick Bennett was interviewed on the grid, and he seemed fairly optimistic they could fix it back in the factory. Gilbert didn't seem to be too concerned about the amount of cost it's going to cost to repair the car. He was also interviewed
for a tight Scotsman.
His words.
He was rather calm.
His words. Yeah, so hopefully that means we will see him back out this season, because obviously that is, every driver when they come into the touring cars will have what's known as a crash budget, where they basically try and budget for how much damage they're going to pick up throughout the weekend, and stuff like bumpers have pretty much changed pretty much every race, etc. There is normally budget within these plans for a massive crash like this. However, given how late he's come into the season, etc., so it's good to see that he's probably going to back out. Also, we have 2 5-second penalties to quickly pick up upon. Chris Smiley and Chilton both given 5-second penalties for the boost issues. This was the overuse of the the turbo boost, isn't it? Yeah, where you've got the lap to make up what you had extra if you remember to downplay it before the line, but if you don't, you get a penalty. Very clear and easy.
I really hope they change that before next season. I know we say I don't want too many changes, but that needs to be simplified.
Agreed. And Chilton also confirmed on the grid that he'd had a full electrical replacement for race number 2, new ECU and all of wiring, etc., etc., as they weren't entirely sure why the car was cutting out. And he did also point out that it wasn't just him having the problems. De Leon, Shedden, I think he also mentioned. So I think that that is the admin ahead of the race. Going into the race itself, Cameron was the earliest car on soft in 4th position, so he was the person to look to, should we say, for this race win. And Osborne off again on the green flag lap, pretty much in the same place.
What Ouija board have you been using to curse him?
Yeah, I am sorry, Sam. I mean, not you, Sam Osborne, but yeah, I really... After yesterday, I was feeling really pumped for that, and obviously the livery as well.
It's not often that you point out a driver and go, he's had a really good race to pole, and the one time you do it, you scupper him for a Sunday.
Tom Ingram, if you're listening and you want to bung me some money to say, oh, Sutton's impressing me and doing well, maybe.
It might need a little bit more than that at this point in the season.
And Bensley was also having to start from pit lane, another issue over at Toyota, unfortunately. On the start, Nick Hamilton stalled, which wasn't ideal.
Yes.
Or didn't get going, if you want to look at it. And Shedden was shuffled from the off. Slow start by Gordon Shedden, and he was shuffled down the order. And Sutton bravely into the lead down the Craner curves. It always blows...
Doesn't take long, does it?
It doesn't, but it just blows my mind that, he is so far in the championship, but he doesn't care. He still wants to get these race wins, these performances on the, quote, wrong tyre as well. And it was a really ballsy move, because we have seen some horrendous instance at the Craners over the years.
I must say, though, he is... At that point, it was against the driver on the same tyre as him, and he tries to make the most of it at the start of the race, because, as we saw with Shedden, if you're the first one to get attacked from behind with people on the better tyre, then you normally get shuffled through the field. So he wanted to make sure that he was ahead of those other 2 drivers and was the last one to be attacked, basically.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. And I think, as we'll get to with perhaps Shedden and Morgan, the key to finishing race 2, if on the worst tyre, is how quickly the pack gets to the first of those poor tyre cars. We've seen in the past where it's not made too much of an impact. It's because for whatever reason the pack hasn't got to the top 3 very quickly. But here, very early on, they were able to attack. Ingram was then able to get by Collard, proving it can be done, which was good news for Tom, because obviously he had to come forward this race. He knew Sutton was on the worst tyre. Ingram was starting, in a good position for a win on the soft tyre.
Collard wasn't impressed by it, though. He was straight on those lights.
Yeah, he didn't make it easy, did he? Which I don't understand what's going on there. I really don't. We then saw Rowbottom get by Camish, and then also nip past Morgan into second. I think Morgan didn't really contest it. It made sense. Rowbottom was on a better tyre, and it made sense to give him the tools to try and win the race. Shedden's tumble continued. As I say, I've got a note here. The pack just got to him too quickly, and he was swallowed up by six soft tyre runners.
Combination of that poorer start out of those top 3, obviously losing 2 positions right at the start puts you even more on the back foot from where he was before. And as we know, you get shuffled out a couple of positions, and especially early on in the race, the pack is so tight together, you end up losing a good handful of positions. Yeah,
of course, it should be also just reiterate, it's not just the fact he's on the less favourable tyre, he's also got much less boost than the rest of the field as well, and that combination really makes it difficult, unless you're Ash Sutton.
Yeah.
We then saw Ingram with a very bold and brave pass around Aaron Taylor-Smith, hung it around the outside of the old hairpin and up through Schwartz curve into McLean's. Got the move done, had to get the move done, but it's also one of those moves where you think to yourself, this is the sort of thing that can go wrong.
Yeah, all it takes is for ATS to have that slight lack of grip on the rear end, maybe. It kicks out slightly. Ingram could be off onto the grass, and to quote a good man, a passenger on the grass, and it could be heading anywhere.
Absolutely. But yeah, good move by Ingram, had to be done, good to see. And we then saw an aggressive move from Camish, which has been a bit of a rarity this season, around Rowbottom, who... I mean, anything negative we say about Rowbottom on this podcast this week may be deemed in other lights because of what's happened off the field, but that's not the case. What I would say is there was a couple of moments in this race where he seems to do odd things with the car, and this was one of them. Went quite deep into the hairpin, allowed Camish through it. Camish made the most of it and was quite aggressive in getting past, but
I would also argue that the car has done weird things in this race at one point.
Yeah, well, I was going to get to that in a minute. Yeah. So Cammish made the most of the opportunity. However, I would say that the move into first by Cammish was more an opportunity presented than an opportunity forced, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Rowbottom did try to fight back at this point, and they had a little coming together on the second hairpin coming onto the pit straight, which that's one of those really for me. 6 of one, half dozen.
Yeah, I've got no problem with that
Cammish
at all.
almost turns in slightly too early, thinks he's going to get the cut back on Rowbottom, just catches his rear end.
Yeah.
Nothing in it.
Nothing in it. I think Rowbottom was already checked up and hadn't quite got the braking right either. I don't think it was helped by the contact from Cammish, don't get me wrong, but that's not the sort of thing I'd expect to see a penalty for afterwards. That's touring car racing.
Not like in the Porsches. Jeez.
Yes. Well, for those who might not watch the sport racing, we saw a similar incident like we saw in the race one with Gilbert and Chilton, although a slightly more obvious one. I need to go look at BRAC after this to see what the
it was very much more obvious. It looked terrible from behind. But
it did.
Yes.
But it's not the Porsche Carrera Cup podcast. This is the Touring Car podcast. So this all meant that Ingram now was on the back of Sutton for third place. Sutton just wasn't making it easy, and I can't believe how difficult Ingram found this. Again, Sutton on the wrong tyre, Ingram on the right tyre, more boost, quick car, and really didn't have any obvious chance. It's not like
you would have expected Ingram to cruise up to the back of him on the better tyre, more boost allocation, to go right. I'm going to have him. We know how close we assume they are in quality of driver and racecraft, and he didn't seem to have it about him in this race.
No, not at all. It was very strange. And then whilst they were battling, Rowbottom decided that he was going to test a new line coming through the chicane. This was bizarre. So basically, through the chicane, right, left, and then the line is on the outside of the track, if you like, to get the position, best entry to the upcoming hairpin. Rowbottom pulled to the inside of the track. From the replays, the brake lights were on as well. It certainly looked like some lights at the back of the car. Certainly slow, if not braking.
I wonder whether I'd seen the rain light come on.
Maybe.
And it's had some sort of electrical blip.
Yeah,
almost,
potentially. Because the wiper then came on afterwards.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
It felt on track like he'd missed the gear. We've heard that before. So obviously not let Sutton through, but that was as a consequence of it.
Yeah.
But it was he knew something was wrong with the car because he'd gone to one side, which is the right thing to do.
Agreed. Completely agree.
But it came back to him so quickly, it did feel very strange.
Yeah, maybe, as you say, maybe it was something as simple as missing the gear, and then I think the line in commentary was maybe the wipers on because you panic, you start pressing every button you can reach with your fingers, etc.
Yeah.
But it was certainly odd, and it meant that Sutton was able to get past, but crucially not Ingram. So Sutton was into second at this point. Ingram didn't get past Rowbottom at this stage, and then would try to get past him at the old hairpin. Sorry, at the hairpin, not the old hairpin, at the F1 hairpin. Went straight into the back of Rowbottom, sensibly then backed out of it and allowed the gap to rebuild, because that would have been a push to pass.
Yes, it would.
There'd be no doubt about that.
Although at that point, he was still under pressure from Patterson behind him.
Yeah, and interestingly as well, Sutton, I wouldn't say necessarily dropped Rowbottom, but was certainly not under any pressure from Rowbottom, which is interesting. Dex was trying to get past Ingram whilst holding off Collard. Yep. Robust attempts, and for a driver that's very worried about budget, he must burn through about 1 million light bulbs a season, because it was a case of the lights are flashing again. Dex, I say, he's been phenomenal, I think, over the last couple of rounds, and again here he showed, like I said several seasons ago, there is a racer in there, and I think we saw that today.
What we've seen from him is good consistency aligned with the speed that he's also got.
Another thing I'd like to say about him is he seems very unflappable. Doesn't seem to panic in these situations. You've got Collard behind you. He's being a little bit aggressive, a little bit knocking and whatnot. No flapping, no worrying, no sort of you carry on, mate. I'm driving my race.
Do what you want to do.
I'm driving my race, mate. And Collard would eventually get by, and I think that, that's fair enough. You can be passed. That's not a problem. And actually, in fairness, Collard is a really well set up move where he hung it around the outside to make sure the inside down the pit straight for turn one. Good move. Can't complain. But Dex really impressing me. We also saw Ingram get past Rowbottom on the boost. Nothing particularly spectacular. It's one of those boost passes we become accustomed to seeing.
Disappointing for me, though. Disappointing
for
in
you.
Terms of predictions.
In terms of disappointing, we did get a shot of the BMWs on the final lap, who had got past Shedden, who had absolutely tumbled at this point.
Yes, he had.
But again, BMWs nowhere this race either. They're just They're just not there this season, are they?
Leon had made up a good number of positions, but he was making up a good number of positions from a lowly position in the first place. So he only got to, I think, about 10th overall. As
11th.
with Rainford really struggled to make progress through, and they seem like they're really lacking just some out and out power and pace.
At the minute, they just look like your typical midfield car. Just you know, not the worst on the grid, but they're nowhere near the best either.
Nope.
Camish would then take the race victory fairly comfortably in the end, it should be said, with Sutton in second. And can I just say, WTF, how has Sutton done this? It's
what I quite liked in his interview afterwards. So yeah, it's the best I've ever felt that car. And you're going, yeah, we can probably see that by the performance that's been put in, the amount of consistency with the pace he was able to show. Dare I say, he makes a mockery of the championship regulations.
But he always has. It was the same with the ballast. It was the same with the ballast in the Infinity. He was winning races on full ballast in that. Whatever regulation they come up with, Sutton makes a mockery of because he is that good. And I think that without any of these gimmicks or balances or whatever word you want to use, he'd have won this 4 rounds ago. Like, he is just unbelievable. And I think, you know, it's also important to point out, it's not just the driver. He alluded to this in an interview that every time he asks for something from his engineer, Tony Carosa, it's given. I think we've discussed on the pod before that, you know, there are 2 very good engineers in this sport at the moment in Spencer and Tony. And I'm running out of superlatives to say about him because
at what point does it get boring?
Well, it is boring, isn't it? It is.
Is it? Or do you still see performances like this where he can drag so much out of a car that should categorically be at a disadvantage in the race?
It depends what you like. If you're a racing purist and you like all of this sort of stuff, it's still exciting. If you're just a bit more casual and want to see a close championship and good racing, it's boring.
Yeah.
If you're not interested in the wider sort of, this is generational, wow, we really are watching something incredible here, and sort of looking into the nitty gritty of how he's doing this sort of stuff and why it's so impressive. If you're a bit more casual, you only watch the touring, and that's not a problem if you're casual. No. Everyone's got different levels of, interaction with these things. I'm quite casual to F1 compared to you. I get bored of F1 quicker than you do. But for me, it's still interesting because every challenge he's thrown, he finds a way to answer it. However, I can see, I talk to people like my dad, who's a bit less nerdy about this than I am, not as interested because it's been a foregone conclusion for 3 months now that Sutton's won the championship. Interesting comments from Ingram on the podium chat as well about stuff he can't say. I'd infer from that it's boost related, but I can't, as a pure speculative
It's either
guess.
that or they know there's a possible underlying issue with the Hyundai this season that he doesn't want to allude to massively, but just wants to put that little snippet out there to go, it's not where I want it.
Or other cars have found a loophole.
Possibly.
But let's probably not go into that because lawyers exist.
Allegedly.
Yeah. We'll say that for the fun of it. Right, so that then means the finishing positions then. Camish led home a 1-2 from Ash Sutton. Ingram did get himself on the podium, but has now lost second in the championship to Camish. Yeah, not been a good weekend. Robot finishing 4th, Ricky Collard 5th, Dexter Patterson a really strong 6th, Aaron Taylor-Smith 7th, Moffat, Morgan, Smiley rounding out the top 10, De Leon, Rainford, Shedden, Chilton and Cook taking the points positions. Not a particularly good recovery from Cook, even being brutally honest. No. And Lloyd would end up finishing, not finishing because his car caught fire.
Yes, not exactly what he wants coming back first weekend. No, we'll put that to one side, but definitely not what he wants first weekend back. And a fire like that looked like it was definitely coming from his engine bay. We know that an engine cost to someone like Lloyd will just completely decimate the possibilities for the rest of the season, unfortunately.
Yeah, I completely agree, unfortunately.
We'll get on. Oh, sorry.
I was going to say ball number 10.
Ball number 10 was pulled by Camish at the end of the race, which would go on to put Smiley onto pole position. Quite a nice ball for Dexter Patterson. He starts 5th once again, although on the wrong tyre. Yeah. And also very nice for a certain Mr. Adam Morgan, who will be starting on the front row on the preferred tyre. And dare I say, I think he's going to be the man to beat.
I would agree with you. However, Moffat will have an eye on that podium as well, starting third. We'll get on to the race 3 action now.
Race 3 then, and Smiley, as we said, will be starting from pole. However, his teammate Dan Lloyd wouldn't be starting at all. The fire put an end to his weekend. Looks like an engine fire, and it was just not even worth the team sort of like trying to get an engine swap to be put back in.
There was some safety concerns, so it had burnt through the brake lines, which meant that would then present another fire risk for race 3 had he got back out to to go and do the race. So probably sensibly, rather than rush through a job and send out a car that's potentially going to have a bigger problem.
Especially as he's a driver now this season that's not going to be fighting for anything in particular, just driving for the rest of the season. So it might even save him a possible portion of money, obviously with the extra funds that he's going to have to provide for another engine by the look of it.
Yeah, welcome back to touring cars.
Quite. There will be 4 drivers starting on the hard tyre: Patterson, Rowbottom, Halstead and Camish. So they were all at a disadvantage before the race even started. And Rowbottom had a poor start to back that up with. Seemed to almost like anti-stall on the grid, got off to a really slow start, and then to compound that even further, was punished for a full start. So I wonder whether he had a slight jump on the clutch, first of all.
Maybe, or another electrical cutout, because it has been confirmed that he had an electrical cutout in race 2. Just quickly on Rowbottom as well, he did get a verbal warning for some argy-bargy with Shedden in race 2 as well. Clear that one up.
He wasn't the only one to make a poor start. Collard also seemed to have a poor start, lost a couple of positions off the start grid. And breaking news, Osborne managed to complete the first lap. Took the start for race 3, and to be fair to him, managed to finish the race in the end and didn't do too badly.
What could have been, though, eh?
Yes, quite. Morgan didn't take really that long to make a nice move on Smiley. Nice clean one as well. Got the run up. I think it was to McLean's, wasn't it?
Yeah, you could see very early on that Smiley didn't have the pace. He was very defensive from sort of lap 2, and you're just not going to be able to defend for 16 laps. As simple as that, you're just not going to be able to do it.
Especially with the pace that Morgan's been showing this weekend. It kind of felt inevitable before the race started, and once Morgan got out front, no one else was touching him, was they?
No, I mean, he did the same in race 1. He did the same here. I think he did the same in Knockhill. Once he gets out in front, very similar to Ash Sutton, who we've given it to given the same praise to in the past. He's been able to build a very nice controlled lead and sort of just manage everything from there.
Yeah, Moffat then followed through to get past Smiley as well. Not too long later, and himself looked quite comfortable in P2 until right towards the end of the race. Chilton with more issues. What a disappointing weekend, not just for him, but for the team as a whole, I think, as well.
Yeah, I mean, look, on the one hand, you could say it's bad luck. On the other hand, bad luck doesn't repeat itself like this.
There's an underlying issue there.
The team have really got to sort this out because it is a safety concern. You know, these cars run fast, they run close, and if he cuts out, I'm thinking at Croft in sort of some of the sunny in, sunny out sections.
Part of me wonders if it's like down to a heat issue that's
maybe
making some sort of electrical issue because it's getting too hot in there, and they need to improve their cooling quite possibly.
It's bizarre that it happens across several cars this weekend because it's not been a particularly hot weekend. You think about Snetterton, which we both went to, and that I mean that was hot, and that wasn't a problem there. So it is. I don't think it can just be sort of air temperature. So yeah, it's strange on it. Maybe I wouldn't even say it's bumpy. I'm thinking it's actually bumpy. It's shaking things loose. But I'm thinking there's that massive crater on Knockhill before you come into the hairpin, and it wasn't doing the same thing there. So,
and I wouldn't suggest there was any untowards contact, or any strong contact leading up to the drivers that have had these issues this weekend having cutouts. Basically,
no, I would agree.
Rowbottom, following from his poor start, then dropped down through the grid once more and actually came into the pits very early on in the race to retire the car, assuming more issues.
Well, also, what's the point? He had a penalty for a false start. The electrical clearly wasn't working properly. What really was the point? Retire the car and just don't risk any further damage. Obviously, we know that funds at that team are a talking point, shall we say? So therefore, why run any bigger or any further risk of damaging the car?
Yeah, and then we had contact between Sutton and Ingram at the old hairpin.
Yeah, I'm going to do something I don't normally do. I'm going to criticise Sutton on this.
It was a late and optimistic move, wasn't it?
So the move came to Sutton. So Ingram left the door open on the inside, and Sutton, very late, as you just said, sort of made that opportunity come. He had to have an overrun, to be fair. So he had to put the car somewhere. But then coming out of there, he just completely lost the rear end and slid into Ingram, sending Ingram through the gravel trap. Clumsy from Sutton, and for somebody that we praise so highly as a fantastic overtaker and great opportunist overtaker, this was poor and a bit wild, to be honest.
Dare I say, following on from that, there was a whole cluster of cars in that space on the track. Ingram had dropped back probably about 4 positions because of being pushed wide, and then Smiley made the most of that, coming through to regain a couple of positions. But it felt like Sutton was then trying to amend for that error, and it could have caused a lot more problems.
Yeah, it felt like he was trying to drop back to give Ingram the chance to get back through, and then realise how difficult that was going to be because how many cars there were between them. As I say, this was sloppy, clumsy by Sutton. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets a verbal warning afterwards for this. Because it falls in this category for me of overtaking without perceived control of the car, etc. So
Smiley then had an issue coming out of Coppice. The car slowed. He pulled over to the right-hand side. Again, looks like another cut-out issue on a Hyundai. It's weird this weekend, as we've already mentioned. And I really hope that it isn't like an underlying issue from either Cosworth or M Sport.
Well, Cosworth have had a look through it and said they can't find a problem.
I know, but something's happening and they need to get to the bottom of it, really. Collard was the next driver to have some difficulties. He went off at the exit of the chicane, ran wide, looked like he'd just run onto sort of like the gravel that was on the circuit and run wide, but actually resulted in a puncture.
Yep.
That dropped him down to 17th, but then he also came into the pits to have that changed over. Went back out, I think, a lap down as well.
Yeah, the problem with the touring cars, we've said before, is that you may have watched some F1 today and seen the very quick pit stops. That's not possible in touring cars. I think there's 5 nuts that need to come off the car. It's not as quicker.
I think now they are a full wheel nut, but it's still a slow stop in comparison to everything else. Aaron Taylor-Smith then made the most of his weekend, having a good run this weekend as well. He managed to pass Patterson for 3rd position. It was a shame. Patterson was doing really well through this race, running on the hard tyre with a slightly lower allocation of boost to all the sort of like drivers around him. And for probably 2/3 of the race, he managed to fight people off really well.
Agreed. Yeah, agreed. It was on the hard, you say, on the wrong tyre. I think the last few rounds I've seen a real coming of age of Patterson. He's been decent all season. He's had decent pace all year. But the last 2 rounds in particular, he's really found a way of getting consistent results back to back to back to back. And you say here,
he's pretty much outshone his teammates in the Audi as well, which is who you have to level yourself against first
100%.
of all, as we always know. Yes, okay, Knock Hill was his home circuit. You'd expect him to go fairly well there. But to back it up at these other circuits as well is really encouraging.
Yeah, and so towards the end of the race he did fade, but you expect on the hard tyre. We saw that in race 2. Actually, Camish in this race had to start on that, and he also went backwards.
I was just about to say, Camish at this point of the race was actually outside the points. Just kept on having drivers come past him. Even the likes of Bensley and Hamilton were able to get past him.
Yeah, exactly.
Which kind of shows the massive offset that there is to having a race-winning amount of boost, so just 1 lap, and being put onto the hard tyre. It really is quite detrimental.
Yep, completely agree. But I think he's becoming a real standout star of the championship, I have to say.
He is.
And a racer in there, which I predicted several years ago, which I'm very pleased about.
Patterson was bleeding positions late on into the race, probably about 2/3. He did drop down, I think, either to 10th or 11th overall by the end of the race. But it's still a really good effort.
Yeah, it really is. I say a real standout star, one for the future, and a racer in there, as predicted by me. So
let's just hope that he can keep his funding going.
Yeah, I hope so.
Throughout this season and into next. He tends to have been a driver that has been good for funding. But if he gets that call from a big team, do you think it's too early?
I think it might be a little bit too early. I also think that this is the importance of getting the right driver in the right car. So obviously he's been in the series in the Infiniti originally. Obviously he had a run in the Cupra, both under Team Hard and Unlimited. And I think it's fair to say he didn't pull up many trees there. I think if you were to give myself some little kudos here, if you were able to look beyond the results and what actually they were doing within the racing itself, you could see there was something there. But now he's actually got a car underneath him that, a team that know what they're really about. They've been in this sport a long time, PMR. They've delivered him a really good car, and he's able to get the results in it. I think that, look, the problem is, if a Napa come calling, how do you ever say no? Regardless of age. However, I also think that sometimes it's not a bad idea to have a bit of stability in a team that's like PMR, that as I say, they're a serious outfit. They know what they're doing. They've got a real good direction there.
I would also say they nurture their drivers.
Yeah, exactly. Well. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree. There's always a time to step up, and we've seen it in the past. Jake Hill has gone from lower teams, if you want to call them that, into WSR. De Leon has done it potentially a little bit too early in his development, but I think circumstance dictated that as much as anything.
And we've also seen difficulties for drivers in doing that. Look at Watson when he went from PMR to Toyota.
Exactly that.
Aaron Taylor-Smith, I would say, has struggled a little taking that step up.
George Gamble comes to mind in recent history as well. So yeah, I think that there is always that risk of making that jump too early. But yeah, I think if he had the choice, PMR next year would be a perfect place for him to carry on this. What he's doing, because he's doing it very well.
De Leon was going quietly about his business in this race. Actually, he managed to get up to third by passing Aaron Taylor-Smith, and then was off to chase down Moffat towards the end of the race. He didn't quite get to it in the end, but it's kind of a salvage a podium from a poor weekend for him.
Good recovery, 11th to 3rd. Managed, as you say, to get WSR a trophy for the cabinet. I'm baffled by BMW and WSR, because actually this race he looked pretty good. But is that just because some of the cars in front were on the wrong tyre? Was that because race 3 drama?
Those on hard tyres.
But was it just because the cars in front got into their own problems as well? I don't know. Is the pace here? Is the pace not here? It seems to be some races it's there for one of them, other races it's not. I just don't fully understand the inconsistencies at WSR this season. No. Because you'd say that performance today in that race, why are they not doing this more often? Where have they been the rest of the race? Where are they at Knock Hill? You know?
And then really late on, Sutton managed to get past Shedden with a very late lunge. It was a well-timed lunge, as we expect.
Better than on Ingram,
Yes. And he managed to almost fake the move going into Redgate and then sling it up the inside. All done nice and cleanly in the end, which is what he needed to get him that extra position. Not like he needs the points, though.
No, but it's what Sutton does. A chance comes, he's going to take it. This was so we saw the two sides of overtakes today. That one on Shedden's brilliant, times it fantastically. One on Ingram, not so good. But, and actually Ingram, just a word on him, just didn't recover. I've been disappointed with him this weekend, if I'm being brutally honest. The car was really quick here at the start of the season. I know we've got the extra loop, but I mean, that shouldn't make such a big difference. Let's not forget that in race 3 at the opening weekend, he came from the back of the grid to 3rd. Was it 2nd, 3rd? It didn't qualify particularly well. Okay, you can
I would argue
fix that.
Virtue this weekend.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Yeah, I'd agree with you. Yeah, a bit disappointed really, because I not just from my own selfish prediction point of view, but I actually did genuinely think this could be a weekend where Ingram did outscore Sutton. Okay, it wouldn't have made any difference in the grand scheme of things. We all know this. But actually, Sutton has come away from here with an even bigger points gap.
Yeah, he has. Talking of a big gap, Morgan was well out front by this point, over 5 seconds advantage over Moffat, and cruised to victory, fastest lap as well, once again, and has made the jump from 8th to 4th in the championship, which it's an astonishing jump in just 2 weekends. Even just a single weekend. He's had a really good weekend.
What will be interesting now is obviously he will have reduced boost allocation.
He will.
The TTB. And there will also be a lot of talk on social media this week about the fact that they seem to, from chatterings, had their boost turned up on the engine coming into here. I think Rowbottom shared that thing yesterday, saying other teams are welcome to protest the car if they don't feel it's correct, etc. But given the dominance of Morgan this weekend, that may well be protested by some other teams out of this weekend now.
The only question or the two questions I would have actually is they've been obviously making the most of the boost this weekend because they've had full allocation.
This is the push to pass boost, not the engine, not the turbo boost.
And they're in a position now where they found this setup,
Yep.
which really works for them.
And they had been improving all the time.
I only slightly question that damper setup, whether they're just going, oh yeah, it's a damper. It's a damper. Or have they found something right on the limit of the regulations?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a Btcc engineer, surprisingly, but I would be surprised if a damper setting has made that much difference, unlocked that much potential in the car. Yeah, that to me. Look, for the record, for lawyers, for fans of our CPRL, if there are any, racing, I'm not saying they've done anything illegal. I'm just saying that the jump is, and we see these jumps all the time in motorsport, but the jump is quite significant, and I'd be interested. You don't normally
see these kind of jumps in touring cars, though.
No, perhaps not, but I'd be interested, therefore, to see whether that can be sustained, whether there is going to be some protests from other teams. It wouldn't surprise me. We knew from Media Day when they first hit the grid that teams were unhappy with some of the setups on that car. We don't know the details of it, but we spoke to drivers and heard grumblings on Media Day about how those cars were. Yep. So it'll be therefore interesting now to see if we see another team protest it going into Croft in a few weeks' time.
Yep. But yeah, that's how race 3 ended.
Yep.
We had Morgan take the win from Moffat. As we said, De Leon got onto that podium late on from Shedden.
No, Taylor Smith,
even. Yes.
From Sutton. Rainford, again, decent recovery from Rainford. Yeah.
Yeah.
But whatever they've done at WSR for this race, keep it for Croft. That's my advice. Shedden, Cook, Ingram and Patterson rounding out the top 10. So even a top 10 for Patterson on the wrong tyre is a pretty good achievement, to be fair.
Top 10s this weekend. You couldn't really ask for much more.
He's outscored Doble, who finished 11th. Selby 12th. Decent result by Selby, to be fair. Bensley getting his first points of the season for him. Good, solid drive from Bensley in that one. And Osborne, let's be fair, recovered from the back of the grid. Okay, people have gone off in front of him, but you've still got to get there, and he got himself into the points.
And as you said yesterday, he looked like he had some more pace this weekend.
Agreed.
It's just the car that's let him down in the first 2 races.
And then, just for clarity, Camish finished in the final points paying position.
Yep.
Did you want to look at some I have to say, I'll put the tables up because we have done this quite quickly afterwards.
We'll go for some awards first of all.
Gives me time. Good call. Good call.
We both agree on the driver of the weekend, funnily enough.
2 weeks running.
Yeah, a certain Mr. Morgan. 2 wins, not 8th, 9th, on the wrong tyre.
No, 10th, because he was second on the grid.
Yeah, so 9th on the wrong tyre, which is probably the most that he could probably
definitely, 100%.
Weekend, especially when they're a bit unsure on how the car then reacts on low boost with that hard tyre.
Agreed.
Villain of the weekend for me.
I just want to also say, on the Morgan thing, dominated Saturday as well.
Oh, yeah.
This is not just driver of the Sunday, it's driver of the weekend. Yep. And I'm going to say it. I mean, he's not very popular at the minute anyway, so let's include the pylon. He had done it he had done it to Knockhill anyway, but since Knockhill, I think he's absolutely outshining Rowbottom at the minute as well. I think he's showing just how...
There are murmurings that Rowbottom has a little bit of things going on behind the scenes, allegedly, which might be getting in his head.
Yeah,
Morgan's got nothing to worry about.
Yeah, there's lots... That is a very fair point. There is lots of off-track activity, and it's very hard to shut out the noise. And I think Rowbottom's had a good weekend by and large. Obviously, the car let him down in race 3. That's not his fault.
Nope.
But I do think, and I think we said it previously to all this stuff kicking off, that Morgan was getting more out of the car for us through the season. And I think that we're seeing him now in a place where he's really comfortable with that car and really, if you pardon the pun, accelerating away in that car.
My villain of the weekend, it's Chilton.
Yeah, I can understand that.
For the move, I believe he is at fault for the move on Gilbert. For the car, and I know this isn't necessarily his fault as much, for the car cutting out, letting him down this weekend, there's an argue over safety concerns around that car because of that.
Yep. The clash with Gilbert, okay, he's not been found guilty of anything.
Outside of that, it hasn't been especially quick anyway.
No, you're right. Didn't set the world alight in qualifying. Had that skirmish of Gilbert, which, okay, the stewards haven't taken any action at that time recording, but doesn't mean it was any good.
Especially at a weekend where we look at Donington and we go, oh yeah, Chilton normally goes quite well.
He's very good here. Yeah. No, I completely agree with you. But I think my villain is Restart. But I think you could make a genuine case that it's Virtue. To be honest with you, I've gone for Restart because I think that they've been guilty of this a couple of times this season. They don't maximise the positions they're in when they come to them. So Smiley not finishing this race in the points, or I don't think he finished the race at all actually. No. Is not good. You can't, and this isn't the first time he started on pole with them. I'm not saying you have to convert into a race win. Touring cars is hard. It's really difficult. And we've discussed in the past, but is race 3 now fit for purpose in its current guise? Because we're not seeing that reverse grid, bringing out what we used to get, which was like an odd podium for Matt Simpson or
a win for Goff.
Yeah, exactly. But I think you still have to finish in the top 10 if you're on pole, unless you get absolutely walloped, which wasn't the case here. So, and then there's the situation with Lloyd. I mean, I wasn't expecting a great deal, him coming back and having to relearn the car, but the car catches fire. Again, that's not necessarily their fault, but it just feels to me that there's a level that they just can't quite reach because they can't keep the driver being consistent. They can't keep the driver lineup consistent, and they consistently don't turn these opportunities that they're given into results. And it's happened a lot this season.
Do you think that's in conjunction with Virtue struggling as well? We understand that there is a data share between the two teams because they're both running the Hyundais.
Different engine.
Think that there is a correlation there, though?
No, because I'd say even last year when the Hyundais were absolutely dominating, that they were better last year, the restart races, but I don't think they were. I still think they made errors last year and dropped big point. I mean, Smiley managed to lose the independence last year to Lloyd, despite being
to his teammate.
Yeah, but how far ahead was he? One, yeah. So maybe that just the car. Is that the class of driver? I'm not sure. But I think this weekend, again, I expected the Hyundai in their hands to go well here, and it didn't. It didn't look fast at any point during the weekend, really. And the Smiley race 3 hasn't converted. And they'll be frustrated. They're frustrated after not killed because a similar thing happened. They'll be frustrated here. It just seems to be happening a lot at the minute. They just can't quite capitalise on the opportunities they've got.
That's fair enough. My surprise good for the weekend. He needed a weekend to bounce back because it has been dire recently. But I was quite pleased with Aaron Taylor-Smith. He's been...
We singled him out in the preview.
A significant way behind Shedden so far this season. And this weekend, I would say he was probably on par with him.
Yeah, he didn't get the podium in the end that Shedden did. But, I mean, I don't think he disgraced himself. He raced well. He raced hard. Yeah, a really good weekend from him. And given we said he'd been anonymous for the last couple of weekends, back in the top 6. In the top 6 consistently this weekend and racing at the front, which, he had a good weekend. I agree with you entirely.
How about you?
I'm going for Sutton. Now, bear me out on this. But, right, okay. I know people are going to go, how can you have Sutton a surprise good? But coming into this weekend, long circuit where boost plays a big part. Didn't bother him in qualifying. Still set a really good qualifying time.
Yeah.
Gets a podium in race 1. Gets the tyre call right, despite perhaps
despite not wanting
it. You look at the cars in front that he's beaten. Yeah. 2 really quick Mercedes.
Yeah.
So he's got that. And I'm taking it as the weekend's developed. This has been quite a fluid surprise good. Mm-hmm. Race 2. That is.
I can understand for the race 2 and doing that on the hard tyre, still finishing ahead of Ingram on the wrong tyre. Yeah, I get that.
And then race 3 does what he does and consolidates position well. But I think coming into this weekend, we identified, potentially incorrectly, that we thought Napa might be a little bit on the back foot here at this circuit. Mm. He's blown that out of the water. Mm. He's outscored Ingram, which we both... I mean, when I made that prediction, you didn't look at me as if I was absolutely mental.
No.
So, do you know what I mean? I'm looking at what we thought would happen, and then as the days gone by, and every test that's come to him, qualifying with minimal boost, that's fine, we'll put it in the top 6 at no worries at all. Get the podium race 1, win race, or get a podium race 2, tick that off. Do you know what I mean? Every challenge that's come to him this weekend, he's passed.
The only reason I think I didn't go, are you sure, is because... I'm expecting Sutton to have a bad weekend at some point.
Yeah, there is that as well. But every time we say it...
for it to happen.
Every time we say it, so that's why I'm going for him surprise good. It's a little bit out there, but I think I'm taking it on balance of what I expected from him this weekend. And then as the day has gone on, I thought, well, there's no way he'll do well in race 2. Oh, he has done well in race 2. Do you know what I mean?
Surprise bad.
Yeah.
You tend to agree with me on this.
Yeah, I've gone for something different for a point of discussion.
Exactly. So I've gone for Ingram. As we've already said, you could probably go for Virtue as a whole.
Yeah, I agreed.
But for me, Ingram has specifically disappointed because there are times at this weekend where I feel like he should have made a lot more of the car that he had underneath him.
Well, he's not got a good car according to him.
He said, this is the best car that I've driven.
Last year?
So, yeah.
I'm fascinated to know what's gone so wrong because last year Ingram won this championship, but not quite the Kansas Sutton's winning it this year, but that car was on rails the second half of the season in particular.
He was alluding to this weekend either possible issues with the Hyundai or possible issues with maybe boost allocations elsewhere and stuff like that. But really, in race 2, He should have made the most of
I agree
the
with that.
tyre, the boost allocation to be able to beat Sutton.
I agree with that.
And
he should have got to the leading group so much quicker as well.
Yeah.
But let's be real about it. He got to Sutton with about 4 laps to go. He should have been there a lot earlier.
And also in that final race, on the correct tyre, yes, okay, boost allocation was a little lower than those around him. He'd lost positions.
He was pushed into the gravel.
Yes,
that could have damaged some of the car.
Possibly,
could have upset balance. But you're right. And what was really worrying for me this weekend from that is that when he was side by side with Cook through the chicane, most of the season, that Toyota's been no match anybody in a straight line. You just drive past him. It wasn't able to happen. Cook was able to get through there with, dare I say, a bit of ease.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with you. I've gone something different for a point of difference. I've gone for Doble. This is the man that won a race here at the opening round of the weekend. Didn't have the pace this weekend. And let's not forget, this is the weekend when Moffat's taken the podium.
Yes.
Patterson has taken 3 very good top 10 finishes.
Yep.
And Doble hasn't really done anything to match.
He's been quite anonymous.
Yeah. Yes, he scored points. Very good. But I expected him to be the leading Audi this weekend, and he hasn't been. And I think that's why I'm surprised by it. Exacerbated by the fact, as I say, Moffat takes home a podium. Patterson has won the Jack Sears at an absolute canter and taken 3 top 10 finishes. Yeah. And has looked really racy. He's raced really well with Shedden and Collard this weekend. Doble, not so much.
That's fair enough. Let us know your thoughts down in the comments for who are your driver of the weekend, villain of the weekend, surprise good and surprise bad, and how you think everything is going to work its way out for the rest of the season. Remember, we've only got 3 rounds left of the season: Croft, Silverstone, and Brands Hatch GP.
Mm-hmm.
So there are still plenty to play for in the other title races, be that Independence and Jack Sears.
And there's all to play for now predictions, because this weekend has blown the doors off. Now, I was a long way back at one point.
You were a significant way behind.
And I think I'm now either level.
3 or 4 points.
I was bigger than that. If it was 5 points at one point.
Possibly.
And I am now either level or ahead. I need to work out the maths.
Go on.
So, we'll cut to the chase. None of us got pole, sprint, winner or winners this weekend. I went for Rowbottom for pole, Cook for sprint, Ingram, Sutton and Collard as race winners. No. You had Camish for pole, Camish for sprint, Chilton, Ingram, Lloyd as race winners. No. We both had Patterson and Jack Sears.
Yeah. Which I think might be Patterson for the Jack Sears for the rest of the season, but we'll see.
Agreed. Now, I got 3 points in the specific prediction. Sorry.
Yes, you did.
So I had a podium for CPRL either on the Saturday or the Sunday, and they had a podium in both Saturday and the Sunday.
Yeah.
You also had a Cataclysm Mercedes podium.
Yep.
So therefore, if you didn't listen to the preview, shame on you. But if you didn't listen to the preview, we then decided that we'd then pick what driver for Cataclysm
That's backfired for me,
would get the podium. I went for Morgan.
Yeah, that's backfired for me.
You went for Rowbottom, so I get the extra point there for having Morgan. So that's 2 for me.
Yep.
I then had Ingram to outscore Sutton this weekend. No. I then also had at least one of the top 3 from race 1 to finish outside the top 10 in race 2, and that happened to Shedden, who finished in 12th, I think. So that was that. We've already mentioned you had the Cataclysm podium, so that's fine. You had Lloyd to outscore Smiley.
I was a little unfortunate with that.
You couldn't have foreseen a fire. I agree with you on that. And then you also had Patterson to outscore Restart, which has happened comfortably.
Yes.
So you scored 3 points. I scored 4 points. So I believe that means we're level.
I think we're level. Agreed. Yeah, I think we're on 17 points each at the point as it stands.
I'm just trying to find
and there will be plenty still to play for with the last 3 rounds of the season to go. And looking forward to it.
Yes. Yes, it was 13-14 coming into this, which, as you say, now means it is 17 all with 3 rounds to play. Talking of rounds to play, let's just bring you up to speed with what's gone on in the championships. So
3-figure lead now.
Yeah,
101 points.
Yep, Sutton has that gap to Ingram, 101 points, as you say. Camish is a further 5 points off Ingram now, 106 off Sutton. Adam Morgan has moved into 4th, which is incredible given his last 2 weekends. Ricky Collard sits 5th ahead of Dan Rowbottom. Rainford, Shedden, Cook and Mikey Doble make up the top 10.
All very tight towards the back end of that top 10 now as well. There aren't many points in it. I think there's like 4 or 5 drivers covered by about 25 points. So for me, that's going to be the interesting part of the main championship and how that all works itself out in the final 3 rounds of the season.
I mean, you are trying very much to spin this at the battle for 4th, and the battle for 2nd is the most.
Trying.
Yeah. Alan Gow thanks you, because it's not gone very well at the top. In terms of the manufacturers, Alliance Ford have a gap of 185 points to Mercedes now, but that will be changed because they have to start. Maybe only the team have had to start again.
Only the team.
Mercedes are now our manufacturer second.
Yep.
They are ahead now of Accelerate Hyundai by 11 points.
Wow, that's that really shows how that Hyundai is this season.
Absolutely. So just to cover off what I hinted there, so Jason Plato Racing is no more. You may have heard. It is now called CPRL Racing, and they've had to start again with 0 points. So but the manufacturer points stay, as do the driver points accumulated.
Yes.
In the teams championship, Napa Racing, unsurprisingly, that's by 193 points from Team Virtue. In the independents, this is where it's getting a little bit interesting. Mikey Doval has a 30-point lead over De Leon, Shedden and Rainford, but they are only 31 and 34 points back respectively.
I'll tell you what, if Doval has a retirement in one of these last 9 races, that's really going to hit his chance in
massively so. Completely agree. Over in the independent teams, LKQ Euro Car Parts with Powermax Racing hold a 21-point lead over Laser Tools Racing with MB Motorsport, so they now both sit above WSR. And in the Jack Sears, you can basically take this as rare, because even though he wasn't here this weekend, Doran is still second in that, 77 points back from Patterson. The nearest genuine competitor is Lewis Selby on one who's 111 points back. So that, you would say, is pretty much wrapped up for Dexter Patterson. All of which means we go to Croft with, unfortunately, not a lot to play for.
Yeah.
Which could go one of 2 ways. It either means this championship sort of dwindles out, and or the gloves are off now. There is nothing to play for, and we get some race 3 style racing more often. We shall see.
It's possible. Obviously, the teams have still got to think about the teams' championships and the manufacturers' championships.
They don't, do they?
We'll see.
Well, they don't, do they? Napa have won both of those.
I'm trying to keep it interesting.
The Independence is the only title that's now genuinely tight. And then Battle for Second is interesting, because I think that if we'd gone back 3 race meetings, we never said we were criticising Cavendish being too far off second, actually, in fairness. And now he is only 5 points off it. So, yeah, I think if Morgan can finish inside the top 6, given the season they've had, and I'm saying him over Obom just because I think he is the more consistent driver, as we have covered. If they could both finish in the top 6, that's incredible. But if they can get one of them into the top 6, I think given what's happened this season, that would be a pretty good achievement as well. But it's not what people tune in for.
Any final thoughts from this weekend?
I think that you've seen this weekend why Sutton is the best touring car driver to ever do it. If you disagree with me, put it in the comments to why, because I'm genuinely interested in your reason.
Up for an argument, I think.
No, you don't have to like Sutton, but I would genuinely like to hear how anybody can say he's not the greatest to do it.
Yeah.
Because race 2 proved how good a racer he is. It's the overtakes we've come to just sort of take for granted now, the way he does it.
Yep.
He's so fast. He's so consistent. Dare I use the word freakish in a positive manner?
Yeah.
And I think that when people will be saying, "Oh, it's boring of Sutton winning it," I tell you what, when these goes, the championship will be a lot poorer for it.
Yeah, it will. It will, certainly. Donington for me this weekend has been disappointing for the amount of mechanical issues. I really don't want to see that be consistent towards the end of the season. I hope everyone gets their gremlins sorted out, so we can have good competitive racing throughout the whole grid, and not scattered with safety cars because another car is cut out for one lap.
Agreed.
So yeah, I'm hoping for better conditions going forward into the rest of the season.
I'm of the opinion that if the car does cut like that, you should be forced to retire it. Because you've scrambled the safety car. Realistically, you're not going to get back and do anything anyway. Put it this way: if that happened if you cause a red flag in qualifying, that's it. You can't. Your fast time stands. You lose fast time, and you can't set a new one. If you cause a safety car in racing, should the same thing not apply? There's a question.
That's controversial.
There's a question for the comments as well. There you go.
We'll see what they say, but I'm not sure many people would agree with you.
That's not uncommon, to be fair.
Of course, we will have previews coming up for Croft. I believe we've got a little bit of
a gap.
A gap now. 5th and 6th of September, we will have Croft, and then we've got a 3-week gap between that and Silverstone.
And a holiday in between for us.
And a holiday, yes. Yeah. Looking forward to that.
We should, on that point, does anything else race around Zandvoort?
Probably, possibly.
Might be something we can go watch when we're there.
We are there during the week.
Well, they might have a track day.
We might be. But yeah, until then, we will be back once again with a preview for Croft. But stay safe and we'll see you soon.
Speak to you soon.